Hello, everyone. Welcome to Thursday. Hope everything's going well. Today, your table comparing Knight and the Pianist is due. The table is due. So please make sure to post that by 4 p.m. Let me know if you have any questions about that. Also, about the direct object quiz, one more time, I can offer you a chance to take that over. Some students did so badly that I'm only guessing that they really misunderstood the directions. So if that happened to you, just email me. Let me know. I can unsubmit your first attempt and you can try again. All right. Okay, so we're going to do some grammar today. We're doing a little more direct objects. Make sure that you feel really good about that. And we're also going to now add indirect objects. Okay. Direct, indirect. So please have your grammar book out. If you don't have it with you, you can pause me and go get it. And we are going to go on page 62 of your grammar book. Now, if you don't have your grammar book, I will have the electronic version of it pulled up as well. All right, so 62 is the last page on direct objects, so it's actually 63 that we're working on. But first I want to show you this. So you know the basics of a direct object, right? It is the object of the verb. It's the thing the verb is acting upon, right? So I sent my friend a letter. Your first job is to find the verb, all right? So we got sent. Sent what? That's what we ask. We can also ask sent whom. Now you usually don't send people places. You can, but you usually don't. It's usually a thing, right? So I sent what? A letter. Here's what's really key to understanding this. Letter is the direct object. So you ask what or whom. Now, did you send your friend? Did you send your friend somewhere? No. Therefore, that cannot be the direct object. However, it is the indirect object. The indirect object answers the question to whom or to what. All right. So I sent my friend a letter. We could rewrite that as I sent the letter to my friend. So to whom did I send it? My friend. Therefore, friend is the indirect object. All right. And you can see that on page 63, the very top kind of gives you the most basic definition they could possibly give you. Now, here's where it gets a little tricky, and this is what I need you to pay attention to because on your quiz, I'm going to make sure that you understand this, okay? So I don't want to call them trick questions, but they're questions where I'm making sure that you understand this fully, all right? Just like you have learned with so many other things, whenever we have a prepositional phrase, we're going to cut it out. Now I know that wasn't true with everything, but for the most part, we're going to cut that out. Why is that? Why is that friend, you're sending it to the friend? Why isn't that the indirect object? Well, I'll tell you why. It's really simple. It's because friend here is the object of the preposition. So the second you have the preposition takes precedence. King preposition, they're the best. And now friend is the object of the preposition. All right. So if I asked you in this sentence to tell me what is the indirect object, what should your answer be? Your answer should be there is no indirect object. There is an object of the preposition. There is a direct object of the verb, but there's no indirect object. All right. Now, earlier I mentioned that we usually don't send people, right? So I sent my friend a letter. I didn't send my friend. Okay, I didn't send them. I sent a letter. I sent the letter to my friend, which is why it's an indirect object. But let's say I said I sent my friend to jail. Now, I actually did send my friend. Okay, I did do it this time. Sent my friend to jail, right? So you got to think about whether the verb is transitive or intransitive. You don't have to think about this, but that's one other way to think about direct objects and indirect objects. Is the verb transitive or intransitive? Does it have something to which it is transferring the action? If so, there's a direct object. Okay, so you sent what? you sent your friend. Okay? All right, so with that really basic instruction, what I'd like you to do on page, I think it's 63, is simply, and you don't have to write the indirect object, feel free to just underline the indirect object and go all the way down. Why not? Go to number 19. This should not be too difficult. Simply find the verb and ask to whom, for whom, or to what, or for what. All right? Go ahead and do that. You can pause this now so that you can take some time to do that because I'm about to go over it. Okay, you should have finished 1 through 19. So let's go over them. Please send grandmother a picture of yourself. So we find the verb, send. Send what? Picture. So if I was asking you for the direct object, that would be picture. Send to whom? Grandmother. So grandmother is the indirect object there. Did you lend Tony the old shovel or the new one? Lend to whom? Tony. I lent it to Tony. Lend what? The shovel. That would be the direct object. The babysitter sang the baby and his brother a lullaby. So sang to whom? The baby, his brother. So you want to underline both baby and brother there. One way to kind of think about these, just a little trick, if you ever get a little confused. If you could rewrite the sentence with a prepositional phrase, then you probably do have an indirect object. So if I wrote this, I could write this, the babysitter sang a lullaby to the baby and his brother. Now they become the object of the preposition, so they're not indirect objects anymore in that sentence. But because I know I could rewrite it that way, that means I do have an indirect object. Okay, what are you doing, Stinky? What are you doing? Okay, all right, sorry guys. Okay, number 4. Todd gave the new student a helpful pamphlet. Todd gave who to whom? The student. Todd gave what? The pamphlet to whom? The student. All right. Will you lend me your umbrella? Me is the indirect object there. Here's one that's slightly tricky. Tad gave the fence a fresh coat of paint. Gave what? Did he give the fence? Right? He did, or actually he did give the fence, right? No, he didn't give the fence. Okay, so Todd gave me the fence, then the fence would be the direct object and I would be the indirect object, right? But what Todd gave was a coat of paint. And to what did he give it? The fence. Okay? So fence is actually the indirect object here. I hope that makes some sense. We'll go back over that if it doesn't. Well, I don't know. Okay. Mrs. Jenkins showed our class a film to our class. Therefore, class is the indirect object. To whom did we loan the skis? Tony and Maria. To whom do you need to show the pictures? Sam. To whom did she send a card? Him. Sent him a card. Card the direct object, him the indirect object. Show me your new watch. Me is the indirect object. A ghost gives guests a fright. To whom do they give a fright? The guests. Please leave me the schedules for the ferry to the island. Leave them for me. Again, if you can create the prepositional phrase with a to or a for, that means you have an indirect object. But what you have to remember is that if there is indeed an indirect object within the sentence, it has now become an object of the preposition. Okay, so just remember that if we have a prepositional phrase, we can't have an indirect object there. Okay? Let's also do Ray and Steven both brought the party host bananas. Brought bananas to whom? The party host. So I just underlined host, but party host could be considered a compound phrase or a compound noun. It's up to you. I gave Alexander the novel. Alexander is to whom I gave the novel. And Patsy the book of poems. Patsy is to whom I gave the book of poems. So both Alexander and Patsy are the indirect objects. Volunteers served whom? Children. Cecilia asked who? No. Lisa Beth asked questions of whom? Cecilia. All right, so Cecilia is the indirect object there. Please leave me $3 on the counter for tomorrow's lunch. Me is the indirect object. And then finally, to whom did Stephanie tell the secret She told Jeff the secret. All right, now, to make sure that you feel pretty good about that, go ahead and do page 64, where you're determining whether or not that word is a direct object, an indirect object, or neither, because sometimes they will try to trick you up a little bit. Okay? Remember that if it's in a prepositional phrase, it's not going to be a direct or indirect object. It is now what we call the object of the preposition, so it would be neither here. Okay? Go ahead and do that 1 through 14. Hit pause so that you can do those, and I'll go over them with you. Okay, so you should have finished 1 through 14. All right, let's talk about this. Wilbur Wright made his first famous flight in 1903. So the verb is made. Made what? Flight. So that is direct object. Now, I hope that this next one doesn't confuse you too much, but his brother Orville had accompanied him. Remember that we ask accompanied what or whom, right? So him is actually the direct object here. Accompanied what? Direct object. Accompanied him, the direct object. All right. Hope that makes sense. 5 years later, he gave a friend a 2-minute ride. Gave a ride to whom? The friend. So it is the indirect object. This friend became the first female airplane passenger. Became what? Passenger. Not an airplane. The friend did not become an airplane. So it is not, airplane is neither. All right. Before takeoff from Alvers, France, Mrs. Hart-Oberg prepared herself and her clothing for the rough ride. Prepared what or whom? Herself. She prepared herself. So it's actually a direct object. A, direct object. She tied what? Her hat. So 6 is a direct object. She gathered what? Her skirt. So 7 is direct object. That is number 8 is neither. Why? Why? Oh, because it's a prepositional phrase in the controls. What? Look, number 9. From the plane. It's neither. She left the scarf on her hat and the cord on her skirt. So scarf is what's underlined. So left what? The scarf. So it's direct object. All right. The observers admired her idea. What did they admire? The idea, direct object. Take a look at number 12. This one was maybe tricky. Sent what? Orders. So that would be the direct object. To whom? They're dressmakers. So dressmakers is an indirect object, B. All right. And then finally, 2 more. Embraced what? Style, direct object. And then created what? Skirt, direct object. All right. So let me know how you did with those. If you have questions, you can email me. You can even add a comment maybe to the Schoology page to let me know how that's going. Simply know that a direct object can be a person. All right. So if I sent Hadley to her room, which I didn't do, but maybe I should, considering she just interrupted me, then I sent whom? I sent Hadley. Okay. So make sure that you kind of pay attention to that. All right. Pay attention to the fact that an indirect object can't be in a prepositional phrase. Okay. Now your quiz today, you'll have sometimes the same exact sentences, and it'll ask you to define or to tell me whether or not the or what is the direct object in the indirect object. You'll choose which word is the direct or indirect object. So make sure that you pay attention to the directions and you read everything clearly. There's only one answer at a time, but there are times when there isn't an indirect object, or it's not. There might even be one where there's not a direct object. I can't remember, but just make sure that you're paying attention. Okay. All right. So again, you'll finish the Knight and Pianist today. You will do your quiz by 4:00. Make sure that you do that by 4:00, or you don't get counted for attendance on that day. On Monday, we will begin a new unit I will have a video for you. We'll begin a new unit and you'll start reading some really cool stuff. The first reading is called What High School Is, and it takes us through a day of high school. And then the second reading is called How Teachers Make Children Hate Reading. Ooh. So that's what we'll be doing next week, all right? So please keep communicating with me, everybody. Hope everything's going well. Let me know if indirect or direct objects are causing you trouble, because I don't want them to. All right. Bye, everyone. Have a lovely Thursday. Have a lovely weekend. You do not have any classwork on Fridays. It's some kind of guidance counselor work. So, yeah, hope that goes well. All right. Bye, everyone.